Hello Troglodyte tribe and welcome back. This week we're doing another bonkers project with Chris Hewitt, and we are recreating Pink Floyd's Live in Pompeii rig in a field up north in an undisclosed location. Yeah, it's just another insane event with some fantastic equipment. It's absolutely lovely to be able to go and play with all of this stuff. So Chris is here.
Hello.
From CH Vintage Audio. Thank you again for letting me come out and play with what is just some heavy but brilliant equipment.
Yeah.
So do you want to just give me a quick overview of what this is?
Well, probably about 4 years ago, I started collecting little bits of Pink Floyd equipment and WEM equipment, and then it's sort of grown to where I basically recreated the Pompeii PA and the Isle of Wight WEM PA. So this is, I used to sit and look at the back of Ummagumma, you know, that album shot on the back where all the equipment's laid out on Biggin Hill Airfield. And I used to go and watch Pink Floyd at the Free Trade Hall in Manchester and ogle at the WEM orange badges glowing in the dark before they came on stage.
They do ping, don't they?
And the green fluorescent H&H panels as well lighting up. So you sat there waiting for the band to come on, and all you could see is WEM logos and H&H logos. So, you know, to actually recreate this, and obviously I've watched Pink Floyd live at Pompeii hundreds of times.
So we're going to have a look at some of the equipment. Now you're going to hear some hum because the rig's on, and it's an old rig, and that's what they do when they're just sitting there waiting to be blasted.
It's analog hum though.
Pardon?
It's analog hum.
It's analog hum. It's
which is much better.
Hum. There you go. So let's have a look. Talk to me about what is this.
So up until about 68, 69, the only way to do a big PA in the UK, and everybody, whether you did a small club PA or a big festival PA, you basically just added 2 of these columns and a slave amp, and every pair of columns and a slave gave you an extra 100 watts. So if you're Led Zeppelin, you might own 20 of these. If you're Pink Floyd, you might own 30, so on and so forth. But that was the only way up until sort of 69, and then the American systems that they pinched from the cinemas, the Voice of the Theatre and the JBL 4560s and stuff started to creep in. So then Charlie thought of the festival system, which was premiered at the Isle of Wight in 1970 and then was used at Pompeii in 71. And that's basically 2 15-inch bass speakers, 4 12-inch speakers for lower mid, 6 10-inch speakers for upper mid, and a pair of Vitavox horns. So you're starting, when we're trying to break through into the multi-way system, but it's still only crossed over passively with capacitors.
Right, okay.
So,
but it's starting to look a little bit more like what we know now, where you've separated out the frequency ranges across separate speakers, and is that across separate amplifiers as well? Yeah, okay, so each amp's starting to do just one thing. And okay, so that looks a lot more familiar to me.
Remember also, we've no stage monitors because they hadn't been invented yet.
Right, okay,
Right, and we've no electronic crossover to separate the frequencies because they hadn't been invented yet.
Right, okay. And then what is this thing?
So this is, these were sort of developed for cinemas, probably in the 1930s, and they got modified for sort of Pink Floyd PAs and things, and they're actually made out of metal, but then they're filled with tar.
Okay.
So there's no ring in the metal.
Oh, okay.
So you get a perfectly smooth response out of the horn because you've no ringing of the metal whatsoever. So these are basically cinema horns that have been modified for PA.
Right, okay.
As are those gold ones as well.
Shall we have a look around the back of this equipment as well?
So here's all the WEM 100-watt slaves.
Now, the one thing that wasn't, I mean, we've both been looking at lots of pictures of this. For years have been looking at pictures of this. The one thing that is new, very new to this, and I'm really, really glad you've added it, was this stand.
Yes.
Right? Because if you get a profile shot of this, you can,
I cannot believe that Pink Floyd, without any stand, balanced that horn in Pompeii, it must have been perfectly still on those days, but even then there were no ropes, no straps. You've got, you know, 3.5 foot of timber and horn resting
literally
on 10 inches.
It's crazy. And so you've built this sort of this metal stand which goes to the ground, and I'm really, really glad you did.
I must say thank you to Barry at Hughes Fabrications for actually building those stands for me, because when I took 3 WEM columns and the horns down, he was mesmerised about how we were actually going to stabilise the horns, but we came up with this clamp method and the screw legs, and it works.
It does really work. I mean, and these are the amps, these are the SL100s, which are running, obviously, all the cabs that we've seen today. And white jack sockets, I mean, it's lovely, isn't it? As we move down the rig a bit more, you've got, obviously, Pink Floyd London, stenciled on the back of the cab.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of away from the PA line, and we've moved into sort of the back line.
So we've got the classic Gilmore 4x12s, which Gilmore and Richard Wright used for guitar and keyboards. We've got the Binson Ekerek. Then we've got 2 of Roger Waters style 2x15s here, and 2 on that side of the keyboard, Leslie. And then another 4 of the 4x12s.
So that's the keyboard, Leslie?
That's the keyboard.
It's wow, because it's so far from the keyboard player.
Well, actually, they had 3 at Pompeii. They had another one there and another one there.
Wow, okay.
And then you've got another 4 guitar cabs. You've got more H&H amps. Some of the H&H's they only actually used for the reverb effect and didn't use the amp part of them.
Okay.
And then you've got the Farfisa organ, Farfisa reverb, another Binson. There were Binsons everywhere. And then later, when Westley takes his shirt off and gets his straps, he'll be sat on the floor down there with the straps, bare-chested, in the sand, barefooted.
I've got exactly the same physique as
David Gilmour, as a young David Gilmour,
And then obviously
the gong.
The gong. I mean, no, Live in Pompeii is without a gong. You know,
and we haven't mentioned the Sennheiser MD409s.
Okay, so let's have a look at microphones.
Because I don't think anybody other than Floyd pretty much use these for vocals. This again was a Charlie Watkins. Someone went to WEM from Sennheiser and said, you could use our MD409s for vocals.
Yeah.
And so Peter Watts, who was Floyd's roadie, who hung around at Watkins quite a lot, he thought, you know what, we'll give these a try. And so Isle of Wight 1970 and Pink Floyd at Pompeii, these were used for lots of things, vocals and all sorts of other instruments. The Sennheiser MD409, which is now, obviously, because of all this gear, because of the Floyd connection, is much sought after.
Yeah. And I mean, as people who've used microphones of this ilk, of this style before, I think we've all seen people accidentally using the wrong side of the microphone. I mean, the beauty of the way that this mic lead attaches kind of lets you know which side you should be using, but I think we've all stood there and gone, the mic's the wrong way around, dude. So the other thing we've done today is that we do have a drum kit here. It is not a Ludwig white sparkle, as was the original. Because
his fault.
It's my fault.
I left him that job.
That was my one job to do. And you know how hard it is to get a Ludwig white sparkle from the 70s. It's just not happening. So a very, very kind gentleman, Brother Jay, has lent us his lovely kit. A kit that he doesn't let anybody else play, but he's let us use it today. Now, we've replicated the drum skins on the front, which are sort of this beautiful 70s kind of hand-painted style. But for the performance itself, we're going to take those off and go back to a standard sort of modern drum skin, just for the way we're going to record this. But these are just there for effect now, so we can really kind of see how beautiful those are. Well, the best thing about using a PA like this is you've got to use a PA like this. So it's not just here for show today. We do have some very special guests are going to come down, and they're actually going to make some beautiful noise through the whole rig.